right. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second event of Ignite Your Life. And tonight we're going to speak to you and share with you some ideas about adapting to change. So one thing that we can count on in life is change. Change always occurs, correct? Do you all agree with that? It's like, and sometimes things change. We don't necessarily want the change to occur. But what I want to talk about a little bit here before I turn it over to Lisa is that the real question is, how do you adapt to change? Do you feel like you adapt easily, or is it challenging?
Depends on what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Right. So, what's interesting is, change occurs, again, whether we like it or not sometimes, and it could be because of a loss of a job, or you might have a job and all of a sudden you find out you have a new role. You could have, a loss of a loved one. We went through COVID and we still are going through COVID in some respects. And during that whole year, that was a lot of change for all of us. And now we're adapting to going back out into the world, and getting adjusted to, that whole experience of going back out. But what's interesting is as we're experiencing change, do you ever experience like you get a little triggered and it's almost like you may feel a little fearful about the change? Or have or have maybe some doubt about change? Well, what we want to bring to you tonight is some ways to manage change, ways to look at change and reframe how you look at change, and then, give you some additional tools that you can take away with you this evening. So we're going to go ahead and start with, Lisa. Take the floor.
All right. Thanks, Jodie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see Louise and Faye have joined us as well.
Yeah. Hi, Louise.
Good to see you all. Okay. So I'm talking about planning for the unexpected, which I know it's kind of an oxymoron because you're thinking, well, how in the heck can I plan for something that I don't even know about? Well, it's not so much about planning for what actually is going to happen. It's planning on how you react to that situation. So, we cannot change what happens, but we can certainly change how we respond. So first of all, I want to walk you through how habits are formed, because when our environment changes, our behaviors change, and obviously behaviors are integral to habit formation. So has anybody heard on how habits are formed? Any of y'all? Any idea?
Repetition?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? Linda, I saw you shake.
Yeah, I read part of Atomic Habits.
Okay.
It's the cue,
yep,
and the trigger and the result, or I might have those words mixed around, but it's the series of events, yes, and it happens often enough and that becomes a habit.
Yes. So exactly correct. So you have the cue. Here, you can think of it as a circle, or I'm more linear, so I like a triangle. So if you think of the top of a triangle, that's the cue or the trigger, which actually prompts you to do the behavior. And the behavior is the habit in which you want to form, okay? So the top part is the cue or the trigger. Then the bottom right corner would be your behavior or the habit that you want to develop. And then the other point on the triangle is your reward. And the reason you have a reward is so that you will continue with the behavior. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is between that cue and the behavior, there has to be a motivating component. Because if you're not motivated to do the behavior, you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. And I know when Jodie talks about her piece, she kind of gets into that a little bit and what can help you with that. So, so as I mentioned before, when our environments change, our behaviors change, and certainly our environments have changed dramatically over the last year and a half, and they're probably starting to change again as we start to get out of COVID and maybe go back into an office building, or as Linda was sharing earlier, her son is moving out, and wow, life is going to change in a big way. So another thing to consider too is not only when our environment changes does our behaviors change, but when our cues change or those triggers, that's what causes behaviors to change as well. So, what is prompting you to do the behavior? When that changes, your behavior changes. So what I want you to think about is creating a contingency plan, so to speak. And I want you to imagine that you are on a road, okay? It could be actually a path in the forest, let's say. And you're walking along, and it's a pretty well-worn path, and you come to a fork in the road. And we call that fork a choice point, because you have a choice. You can either go right, and that can be the road, the well-worn road that is traveled. You can see footprints. It's pretty evident that it's pretty well traveled. Or you can go left, and that's the road less traveled. So you might be able to see an occasional footprint, but it's kind of, covered up by pine needles and other things. So you come to this choice point, okay? And you have the behavior that you've been doing, whether it's positive or negative, and you could keep doing it. Or if it's something that you want to change, then it's getting onto the road less traveled. And again, it's that motivating component. How badly do you want to change that's going to prompt you in that direction? Okay. So in order to take that leap, yes, you have to have the motivator, but the good news is when you take that leap and you go on the road less traveled, you start to form this neural pathway in your brain. And a neural pathway is basically a path in your brain between brain cells. It's kind of a fancy term. So once you make that move, you've formed a neural pathway. It might not be strong because you've only done it once, but as you said before, through repetition, it strengthens it. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So again, remember the motivating piece. Now, a different way that you can also look at something as far as behavior change is a technique called piggybacking or habit stacking. Have you heard of either?
Yes.
You have. What have you heard?
Well, I know in reading about it, it's just that you can stack different habits together so that you'll actually do something.
Exactly. So that kind of becomes the motivating component for you to go down maybe that road that's less traveled. So for example, let's say during COVID, maybe your activity level dropped off a little bit and you would like to get back into more activity. And let's just say, hypothetically, morning is really the only time, first thing in the morning, that you have been successful doing any kind of activity. Because as the day goes on, you get tired, what have you. So you're like, okay, so how do I do this without just hitting snooze? So what you could do is put your workout clothes, including your shoes, right next to the bed, and you attach it to the coffee that you get in the morning. So let's say your normal routine right now is, okay, I turn off the alarm and I immediately go into the kitchen and either start the coffee maker or make a cup of coffee, pour a cup of coffee, depending. So you have the trained behavior of turning off your alarm. So to piggyback onto something would be to then, you see the clothes there, you put your clothes on, okay, including your workout shoes. And then you piggyback it to the next habit, which is going in and getting your cup of coffee. So that's like the first step. And then after that, then you can go on and say, okay, well, maybe the next day I'll actually make it out the door and I'll go outside. And then the next day, maybe you'll walk down to the edge of the street, what have you. So that's a different way to do it too. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jodie.
Oh my gosh, that was quick.
I know, it's pretty fast. Well, anybody have questions? I guess I could ask if you have questions. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, I was thinking about what Lisa was going to speak about, and to piggyback off of what she just said, one of the tools in my toolbox as a life coach is, and many of you don't know this, but for those who don't, is I have my master's in Neuro-Linguistic programming, which is actually a modality that I use to help people move out of a stuck position, or create new behaviors, new beliefs, so they can better manage their life. And it's based on all of your senses. It's also based on how your brain has been wired from birth until this present moment. And especially in our younger years, we made meaning on every single second, whether we realize it or not, based on our senses. But it was also based on what we knew then. Well, at the same time, as we get older and everything, what the unconscious wants to always do is keep you safe first and foremost. So when you're young, you do certain behaviors and certain ways of managing life. But as we get older, those ways don't necessarily work. And so what I do is I help reprogram, if you will, ways on how to have more resources and be able to manage your life more effectively. Well, one of the tools I want to talk to you about tonight is a tool called anchoring. And now, three of you know what that is because I work with you, but let me explain what anchoring is. Anchoring actually is a resource that elicits positive response when needed by associating a particular mental and emotional state and behavior. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually do an anchoring process, and all of you can do this individually. And what we're going to do is, see, here's your hand, okay? And right here between your forefinger and your thumb is the web, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're just going to, when I tell you to press on it, that's what you're pressing on, is that's gonna be your anchor resource place, okay? So what Lisa was talking about, I want all of you to think of something that you would like to create a new habit that will be, empowering for your future. So whether it's exercising, going, walking every day, but think of a new habit or a habit that you've always wanted to, have ongoing, but for whatever reason, it hasn't quite occurred yet. So it can be anything in your life, but just something that you want to do that you haven't done yet. So think of that, think of something, and let me know that you have an idea by, saying, yes, I have an idea, because it's a small idea. You have an idea?
Yeah.
Louis, yes. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. And April's driving, but Faye, do you have an idea? Okay. So what I want you to do, though, is we're going to anchor motivation, because everything that Lisa is talking about, we can all benefit from motivation, correct? So think of what you want to create as a new habit. Would motivation support you to always move towards that habit? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you to, think of a time in your life, and it could be as early as, 30 minutes ago to as far back as you need. But I want you to recall a time when you knew you were really motivated. I mean, nothing was going to stop you and you went after it. So I want you to think of a time in your life, a situation in your life when you knew you were motivated. Now, how I'm going to know that you have that in your mind, you're just going to shake your head yes. Hi, Amy. Okay, everybody got that? Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to press on this on your web. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to access that memory. And as you access that memory, I want you to see what you saw then about yourself being motivated. Make sure it's very clear. The picture is clear. It's in color. It's close up. You see yourself motivated. Now, what does that feel like to be motivated? Feel it from every part of your body being motivated. That sense of excitement. Hear what you heard then. Like, what are you saying to yourself at that time? What were you saying to yourself? Or maybe there were others saying something to you. And notice how you were moving. Because often when we're motivated, we're always moving forward. Our shoulders are usually, pretty, like you're standing up straight, but you feel excited. So just see yourself moving and see yourself now moving towards doing this habit. So I want you to actually visualize, feel, and see yourself and hear yourself doing this new habit. By being motivated. Okay, now release. And just look around a little bit and ask yourself, okay, what is your favorite beverage you like to drink? Just say it out loud to yourself. Okay, what we're doing there is called breaking state. All right, now we're going to do another memory. We're going to do 3 total, okay? So I want you to access another time in your life when you knew you were very motivated. And when you have another time frame when you knew you were motivated, just shake your head like that. Okay, now go back to the anchor, press down, close your eyes, and I want you to access that memory and see what you saw then. Make sure everything's in color, clear picture, close up if you need. Hear what you heard at that time. Now feel what this feels like, knowing that you're motivated. Feel that within your body, your nervous system, just feel it. Being excited and motivated and just have that go-to attitude. And notice how you're moving. Okay, and when you're done, open your eyes. And then I want you to say to yourself out loud, well, whisper or whatever, your phone number. Okay, all right. Now we're going to do one more memory, and I want it to be a very strong time in your life when you knew you were motivated. I'll give you an example. I did a ropes course once, and the second time I did it, not the first time, because the first time I was like freaking out. But the second time I was extremely motivated because I knew I could do it, So that's an example because it was really it really made me excited. Or maybe you jumped out of an airplane, or maybe you did something that you were really excited, very motivated, but just make it very rich in your experience. So think about something like that. And when you're all ready, just nod when you have one. All right, now you go ahead and press down on that anchor, close your eyes, and I just want you to recall that memory and see what you saw then. Make sure it's clear and in color. The picture's clear. Hear what you heard then. Feel what that felt like at that time being motivated. And then notice how you're moving. Okay. All right, when you're done, open your eyes. Now I want you to take a deep breath in and exhale, and do that a couple times. And Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want, the original habit idea that you have in mind that you want to start implementing as early as after we get off the phone to tomorrow morning or whatever, but whatever that is, okay? Now, imagine you're getting ready to start. Now, what I want you to do before you start the actual habit is I want you to press down on this thumb area or this web area and just say recall motivation. So first of all, when you press down and say recall motivation, it should come right to you. The sensation, the feeling, the seeing, everything should come right to you. So go ahead and test it right now. So test your anchor, press on that, and just say recall to yourself. Just say recall motivation. And tell me, nod if you feel that. Okay? Everybody got that? Now, this is how you're going to use it. So think about this new habit that you're going to do. All right, so you can imagine it. Now, I want you to recall motivation. So recall motivation. All right, you got to really press on that, though. You got to press on, Louise, make sure you're pressing. Okay, and then now I want you to close your eyes and actually see yourself as you're holding this motivation. Just see yourself now perform or, doing the action. And then when you're done, you can open your eyes. So I want to ask you a question from a scale of 1 to 5, 5 meaning that you now are going to implement this new habit more easily and more effectively. Where are you now?
I'm ready to go.
5 is like, yes, I'm ready to go do it. 1 is
5.
like, okay.
4.
4,
I
okay.
would say 4 as well.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to go with a 4 too, because I want to, and yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to see, this is important. So I'm going to ask you one at a time. So Linda, what needs to be in place, do you think, for it to actually be a 5?
Well, mine was just to drink more water.
Uh-huh.
And I was on a really good kick, and then I just, didn't. So what needs to be in place?
Because you're at a 4.
Yeah.
You got the.
I think really calling on that motivation a little bit more, like practicing the whole visualizing it, and then taking, for me, a lot of times it's just taking the leap. I know I can do it. I have the motivation. I know I've been motivated in the past because now I've got examples that I can bring to mind quickly. So I don't know.
So say that, so you want to visualize doing it more.
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to visualize doing it more, what can you put in place to make that occur? The visualization part?
Yeah, it gets written down. It becomes, I piggyback that habit onto something else I'm already doing, which for me is, like Lisa was talking about putting the clothes out. For me, it's going to be having the water cup there and the water ready to go. So that in the morning, I'm looking at it.
Okay. So what I'd like for you to do is starting tomorrow, let's do as an experiment and do that, put that water there and all that with your clothes. Just try that, or not try that, do that so that you can see that, you'll do. I mean, I think once you get started doing that, and if you need to put a little stick-it note somewhere to remind yourself to do that, anything that's a visual cue that would help you to remember to put the water. Because I know when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'm like, Okay, I can't even think. So, but if I have a little visual cue to remind myself to do something, that might work also. But that's what your unconscious just told me you needed, was to have the water available and then to have a visualization. So that's why I think it would be good to experiment tomorrow, this week, doing just that.
Yeah, and I can also tie it to making coffee. So I make coffee every night, and like religiously. And so it's maybe changing it up, make the coffee, make the water, sit out the water. So
Okay,
it's doable.
Yeah, let's give that a go.
Okay.
Okay, and then let us know how it's working.
Okay.
Okay, because if there's anything else that I can do to from an NLP perspective to help you make sure you're doing that habit, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Louise, what do you think you need in order for it to be a 5?
Well, mine was making my bed consistently, because that's one thing. It's silly, but it drives me nuts when my bed is not made. and I sit there and I just think about it, just make it. So best thing to do is get my exercise gear ready, Lisa, next to my bed, and put the exercise gear on, because I won't get back in bed if I have that on. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm going to piggyback.
Okay, so Louise, when press on your thumb area for just a moment. Okay, and now I want you to create a movie of you doing that in your mind, like just see yourself doing that. Actually, Laura or Linda, you can do the same thing with your water, but just press on that motivation. But at the same time, I want you to create a movie of you doing that. Okay, and how will you feel knowing you did that?
Power woman.
Okay, add that to your movie. Okay. Now, from a scale of 1 to 5, 5 meaning that you'll do that now, where will you be?
I think I can move to a 5. Yeah, I just, because now that I've thought of, I'm one of these, I have to be really logical. It has to be in front of me, otherwise I won't do it. And so now that I have a plan in place, it will be done.
Yeah, and if you want to text me and say I made my bed, or Lisa, you can text us, say, "Yay, I made my bed," to say, and you can do the same thing with us. Linda, we can even put it in the in the Facebook thing. Just say I did it. I did it. Mm-hmm. And we'll all know what that means. Mm-hmm. That would be fun, because we're all to And then anybody that reads it says, "You did what?" So then they'll want to come to our next class. Okay, Faye, was it for you that had a 4? Or no, was it Amy? You had 5. Oh, Amy, my dear thing, what do you need?
I've said this so many times, but what I need is, I want to create order as a habit, like 15 minutes at a time, just 15 minutes. And I like what you guys are saying about, Linda, about linking it to something. So I have a pretty good established routine in the mornings with either exercising or meditating. So I think what I can do is link it to that just for 10 or 15 minutes, straighten something up, whether it's in my office, the kitchen, whatever. I think I can make it a 5 if I link it like that.
Okay, well, now I want you to close your eyes and use your motivation tool and actually see yourself doing that piggybacking that Lisa taught.
I'm at a 5. It feels easy.
See, this is what's so cool. All right, so that's anchoring. And now, did that support what Lisa's taught you this evening? Does that work nicely together?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right, good. I don't know what we have for time.
Well, why don't we open it up now for any questions or takeaways that you have?
I was going to mention about the water drinking. I started Noom program in January, and I know they required that you drink a lot of water every day, and that was something that I wasn't real consistent with. So I actually bought a water bottle with a straw, and I fill it with ice and filtered water, and I just constantly fill it all day long, and I have it right by my bed. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't know why I do this, but I take 9 sips. It's just like my 9 sips. So I count and I make sure I have 9 sips before I get out of bed, and then every time I think about it, I go and take some water. because it was hard for me as well. I knew that I wanted to drink more water, but it was just one of those things I just would forget about it type thing.
Yeah, I bought the big 96-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
It's sitting in my kitchen, and
Yeah, I know.
sometimes I drink some of it, and sometimes I don't. And
I know.
I don't like water. I'd rather drink something sweet, or like hot tea or drip drops or something that tastes good. So
I know.
Another idea you can do is set your alarm for every hour to remind you to drink. And, because it's good for you. And sometimes things that are good for us, we tend to like push it to the side. But if you set your alarm on an hourly, like you can tell your phone to remind you every hour, drink water. And then every time it rings, you can say, well, hey.
Okay, thank you. I like that. That's an easy solution right there. Yeah.
Well, and what I loved, what Mary Lou said also, is that she took 9 sips. She didn't drink the whole thing. She didn't drink half of it. She took 9 sips. So Linda, 9 sips might not be the right amount for you. Maybe it's you take 2 sips, or you take a sip, or, whatever you deem. But I love that because you broke it into something that was manageable for you. So yeah.
All these are really great ideas. Yeah.
Well, that's a good trigger too, because it's like, okay, I just took my 9 sips. Well, I did that. I might as well keep going, I mean, like, okay, I might as well do the next best thing, so it's just that first step.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Don't you?
And once you start drinking water, I think you kind of crave it a little bit. Like I found that I want to be hydrated. And I never really loved it either, but I think once you start drinking it, your body kind of tells you, yeah, you need water, and then you like it.
Yeah. Time to just do it. With my
That's why Nike's got that logo going on. Just do it.
Any other takeaways, comments?
Yeah, this is really helpful because I know this is true, but it's one of those things like if I only say you have to do it for 10 or 15 minutes, I'll do it. It's so overwhelming and I need to spend 5 hours cleaning and then I don't want to do anything. So I appreciate very much the reminder that, and often if I do 10 or 15 minutes, I'll do 30 minutes or 40, often, because I'll get some energy like we're talking about and start feeling good. So
yes, motivation creates motivation, movement. Yep.
Yeah, just movement, right?
Yes.
It helps just to take that step, period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Make it small, make it realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how small. I mean, last time I talked about micro habits, if y'all remember, and it could be something as silly as, okay, I'm just going to tie my shoes. I mean, it's just something, but when you can achieve a habit or, develop a habit, no matter how small it is, how do you feel when you accomplish that?
Right.
You feel like you've accomplished something. So
everybody wants to feel successful.
Exactly. So build on that success and continue to take those little steps. So love it.
No, I like it because with my personality, I like to just get started. My motto is just do it. But getting to the just is sometimes an issue. If I can make my bed and I'm a neat freak, that really makes me feel amazing. And then I can, maybe I can clean the whole house instead of just making the bed.
Jodie could help you with that. She's like, you're out spotless.
Another idea too, at the end of the day, create what I call an evidence journal where you write down, based on this, what you did notice that you were able to accomplish that day. I don't care, like Lisa said, if it was just tying the shoelaces, that's still an accomplishment. We do not want to minimize anything that's moving you forward. Okay. So, but writing it down, put the date and write it down. Then each day you'll start to see your journal's getting a little fuller because you're starting to create these new habits and you're getting some wonderful experiences out of it. Okay. The other thing I want to say too is sometimes we create a new habit, and if something isn't quite working there, it just only means that you have to be, to adjust it. It doesn't mean like you got to give up the whole thing. All it means is you just need to maybe readjust it, how you either look at it, how you maybe you implement something else, you add another piggyback idea, whatever, but that's all it means, because there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So this writing down at the end of the day what you've experienced will allow you to see how changes actually occurred for you, even at the smallest step to the more, leaps that we make, right? So I think that's important, because you don't want to minimize any effort you're making. And we tend to do that as human beings because we just sometimes do, but we don't really want to do that. So you want to get out of that habit of deleting a good progress you are making, even if it's a small little step.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's another thought, because you want to celebrate the fact that you walked to the mailbox. I mean, I can relate to that one. See, we're all human here, so we all got something to work on. But that's the fun of it. But one of the good things too I'd like to add is that this is a great group. We're building a group. Lisa and I are building a group, and we want you to know that this is a group that you can get support from. You can make friendships and have support. We all understand, what we're talking about, so we have this commonality and common bond now that we're building. And so this is a great time to, if we post something, you guys can share too. It doesn't have to be just Lisa and I sharing. We may be facilitating this, and we may be the coaches, but that doesn't mean that you all have great, wonderful ideas as well. And so we need to, work together and share together. That's really what we would love to see, right, Lisa?
Absolutely. And before our next event, we will create the private Facebook group, because actually I just posted in the chat the link to the webinar feedback form. So if y'all could fill that out again, that would be awesome. But unanimously, from our feedback from the last time, was everyone unanimously said, yes, I would love a private Facebook group. So all those things that Jodie, was mentioning, we'll put it in there. And as we continue to grow, we'll just keep sharing events, and it's a safe space, for us. We'll make it a private group for, those who are engaged. But yeah. And then I also have, I think all of you are actually members of it. You may not be, but in case you're not, I have a private group. I know Jodie's a part of it too. It's Be Your Best Self. And it's truly all about positivity. That's really what it is. It's not about business promotion or talking about, current topics or whatever. It's all about positivity. Now, included in that, it can be, if you've had a challenge, what was a key learning from it? What overcame, that kind of thing. But I'll post videos in there. And so if you're not a part of it, it's on Facebook. We can be Facebook friends. But if you look for Be Your Best Self, that is the group. And I can also add you as well. But it's just another place for positivity.
We need more of that, more and more.
Yep, we do, don't we? Well, any comments or anything else?
Very, very good. A lot of great information. Thank you both very much.
Good.
Thank you for inviting me to.
We enjoy doing it, and it's such a honor, really, to be able to not only work together, but to help everybody and make a community out of it. So
Absolutely.
Awesome.